Hi everyone, Chris Kamarianakis here from Protect Your Boundaries and the Boundary Wise Academy for another Wednesday morning webinar on land and boundaries and all those wonderful things. So I hope you're all doing well. We get such a great turnout for these. We're going to continue doing them. We've done 12 so far, and we get people from all over Ontario, as you know. Tons of great questions coming in that we answer either within or after the fact, and this seems to have been quite a success. So if you keep coming, we're going to keep doing them. As always, come over to the Boundary Wise Academy where you can actually get more deeper education in this and a professional designation out of it if you're an Ontario realtor. Otherwise, just keep coming and enjoying these and learning something every time. Of course, they're all on YouTube for replays if you want. And listen, if you like this stuff, we're in the referral business like you. If you like this stuff that we're doing, please take a moment either to subscribe to our channel, give us some likes, give us some comments, give us some feedback on Google and so on. It helps us. So if you do that, that would be fantastic. So to today's topic. Today's topic is the legal description, your secret weapon in every deal. And you might be saying, Chris, how could you possibly torture us with such a yawner of a topic, right? And okay, you might be right. It is a bit of a yawner. In actual fact, it's not. The legal description has so much amazing knowledge and information in it that if you know how to read it correctly and you know what each of the pieces mean, it gives you an extra set of eyes on a property. Whether you're on the listing side or the buying side, it helps you make sure that that listing that you put together is absolutely pristine, that you're not going to make a mistake, that you're not going to miss something that should be in there. And on the buying side, it gives you a heads up to potential issues that your buyer might have that you can catch for them way in advance of bidding on the property. So here we go. I'm going to make my screen myself a little smaller here. Let's do this. There we go. I'm down there. And let's make a start. The legal description, your secret weapon in every deal. So here's a wonderful legal description. And I got to tell you, when I first joined Protect Your Boundaries and joined my friend Sasha to help build this company, I knew nothing about land or boundaries or surveys or anything like that. And I looked at something like this and I went, oh my goodness, that looks to me like this. It's hieroglyphics. In fact, I could probably make more sense of the hieroglyphics than I could of the legal description itself. What on earth does all that mean? So what we're going to run through today is basically a refresher, a reminder on what a legal description actually is. How do we read it? How do we take that craziness and turn it into plain English in a way that we can decipher it? And then how do we understand the legal description? This is about the breakdown of that legal description so we can truly understand what we're looking at and what it means. From there, we're going to get into why is this useful and how do you use it both on the listing side and the buying side. And from there, we'll just talk about the Boundary Wise Academy very briefly at the end. Fair enough? Okay, here we go. What is a legal description? Well, I guess by definition, fundamentally, a legal description is a written description of land which delineates a specific piece of real property from any other real property. Now, it's not the postal code, it's not the address, it's not the GPS coordinate. The legal description is a written description of that land according to certain specific nomenclature and structures. And it's used as the property identifier in all matters relating to land. So if you are a planner or an architect, or if you're in the city in the Committee of Adjustments, if you're in the city you're doing permits, if you're a surveyor, if you're a developer, you're dealing with legal descriptions. You're not describing properties by their address, you're describing them by legal description. It is such an important component of a property, and you have to get it right every single time. So when we look at a legal description, where do we see them? Well, we see them on deeds, we see them on parcel registers, we see them on other conveyance documents in the real estate transaction. We also see portions of the legal description on the survey plan. We see them on the agreement of purchase and sale. We also see them on property tax assessment notices. Now, sometimes, one thing to note here is that I know that you tend to get your legal descriptions from one or two places. You either get it from Geo Warehouse or you get it from MPAC. MPAC, their fundamental use out there and their utility is to help municipalities calculate and distribute and collect municipal tax. And as such, when they use the legal description, occasionally they truncate it, they cut a piece of it off. Now, that's not because they're being sloppy in their work, it's that they don't necessarily need all of it. They're really concerned with only the first portion of it. And so in some cases, that legal description isn't complete as you need it, to sell or purchase a property. So our advice to you is, yes, continue using MPAC for what you need to use it for, but when it comes to the legal description, get it from GeoWarehouse, okay? That's the most complete version of the legal description you're gonna get. And as we said, it's the universal identifier. You need it. I want you to think about the legal description as something like this. It's not just a grouping of words that you can abbreviate, take words out, make a little shorter if it doesn't fit in the field on the listing form, that kind of thing. Think of it like your passport number. If it's missing a number, it's not your passport number, right? Same with the legal description. Don't change the words. Don't truncate it. If it's missing a piece, it's not the legal description of your property. It's got to be exact. And the best place to get that is the parcel register. We'll talk about that in just a second. But let's look at a legal description, the nomenclature, the abbreviations that make it up. We've got 5 different legal descriptions down here we're going to look at. But if we look at what these abbreviations mean, come back to this on replay if you want and stop it to actually write these down if you want. LT means lot, CON means concession, PCL means parcel, and SEC means section. PT means part, PTS means parts, BLK means block, PL means plan. RT means right of way. You don't see too many of those. ROW also denotes our right of way. But more often what you're going to see when talking about an easement is ST, meaning subject to or together with, TW, together with, which is when your property is the dominant tenement. ST, the property is the servient tenement. TW means together with, the property is the dominant tenement. If you're not sure what that means, take a look at our other videos. We explain that in detail. And TWP means township. So if we look at these 5 legal descriptions just below, LT146PL8330 Markham, okay, what does that mean? Well, this means lot 146 on plan 8330 in Markham. The next one, part of lot 30 on block A on plan 18 in Markham. Further described in instrument MA 109023. It's easy to turn it into English, right? And when you start turning it into English, it starts making a little bit of sense. Let's look at the next one. Lot 100 on plan 65M 3830 in Markham. Subject to, ST, subject to an easement. Now, the word easement there is a little redundant. Subject to an easement for entry, further described in instrument YR716767. We'll talk about what that means in a second. Let's look at the next one. Parcel 22-1, section 65M2770, also known as lot 22 on plan 65M2770, subject to an easement further described in instrument number LT886455. Now, let's pause there for a second because we've got a bit of a glitchy one here, not a glitchy one, but one that might trip you up. When you see a legal description that repeats the same lot number and plan number in 2 different ways of saying it, so parcel 22-1 on section 65M2770, lot 22, plan 65M2770, this is like having, when we talk about a length that's measured either in centimeters or inches, it's still the same length. It's just 2 units of measurements that's being used. Same with temperature, centigrade and Fahrenheit, to describe the same heat. In this case, what we're dealing with is 2 different ways that land was described that overlapped in time. And so in that overlap period, one went before, one came after. In that overlap period, there was a level of caution exercised and both units. It's like saying the temperature today is 32 Fahrenheit or 0 centigrade. It's the same temperature. It's giving you both. That's what that means. So all you have to do is make sure that if the parcel and the lot are the same, in this case 22, and the section and the plan are the same, 65M2770, you know it's one of those situations. You don't have to get worried that somehow this piece of land is made up of 2 different portions. It's all the same thing, just called 2 different things. And then the last one, lot 22, plan 65M3607 in Markham, subject to RT, subject to a right of way for 7 years from 2003, June 20th. And if I get rid of me there for a second, you'll be able to see the rest of it. As further described in the instrument York YR315903. So this easement here is interesting. This one is a time-limited easement. And if you remember some of the easement information we looked at in a previous webinar, you know that easements stay on title in perpetuity unless they have a specific expiry date. This one has an expiry date. This is subject to a right of entry. So this property is subject to an easement in favor of another property or a corporation, but it's time limited, 7 years from June 20th of 2003. So this would have expired on June the 20th, 2010. Well, we're now in 2020, it's expired. Even though it's still written in the legal description, it has expired. You're actually lucky that this one is written in full in the legal description. You don't have to dig deeper to get more information on it. It's there for you. Okay, so that's that one. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next screen here as I move around my various screens. Here we go. There we go. So let's take a look at this one now. This is a doozy, isn't it? You're not going to see too many of these. Now, if you're dealing with a condo, you might see some of these. Or like we were dealing with one of our friends in Guelph, Matt, this week, one of our Guelph realtors who comes to all of our webinars. He gave us a great example of one where there was a really complicated legal description with some crazy easements in it that didn't appear to have anything to do with the subject property. And yet, when we looked into it, this was a detached house in a neighborhood in Guelph, Westminster Woods, of all detached houses, that in actual fact was managed by a condominium corporation. And during the registration of this, for whatever reason, it was determined and decided that every single property in that subdivision would have attached to its legal description the easements that afforded the condominium corporation that managed the subdivision, that afforded them the access rights to the various pieces of land that they needed to be able to maintain things like parklands and laneways and and sound barriers and things like that. It was a really interesting example. So you might see one like this, but in this one, it starts off with one STLY. And I know when I first looked at these ones, the one STLY, I thought, trying to figure out what it meant. Onceley? What does onceley mean? It means firstly, obviously. So firstly, and as soon as you see a firstly, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to look for the secondly. Because if there's a firstly, there's always a secondly at least. Sometimes there's a thirdly. But in this case, you're going to look at firstly, and you're then going to see that the secondly starts 2/3 of the way down the first line. So firstly, part of block 68 on plan 65M2630, parts 6 and 9 on plan 65R21442. Secondly, then there's another long legal description here. Now, in this particular case, what this means is that this particular property is made up of two distinct pieces of land that have been meshed together. And the way this sometimes happens is that you get a property that straddles two different plans, two different subdivision plans or reference plans or something like that. It's made up of two different distinctly named portions, pieces of land to make one property. And so that's how this comes about. Listen, don't freak out over this. As we go through the next few phases, you're going to see how this is so easy to actually decipher. And we're always there for you. If you're a Boundary-Wise graduate, we're there for you. You send this to us and go, Chris, Amanda, Jess, somebody on the PYB team, help. What does this one mean? Am I in trouble? Help. Anyway, so let's go forward on this one and talk about dissecting the legal description. So here we go. There are three parts to a legal description that I want you to focus on. The first is the locational reference, the plan reference. The second is the encumbrances, the easements. And the third is the municipality, the registry office, the jurisdiction, right? Always location reference, encumbrances, and municipality. And as we go through these, you can see now we can cut these up. And what I encourage you to do is when you get a legal description, print it off, get a highlighter and highlight these pieces in different colors or somehow highlight them so you can actually decipher them and deal with them individually. And that's the key. The first key to deciphering a legal description is break it up into its three constituent components and decipher each individually. So with this one, we know that the location reference is lot 25 on plan 3936. We then know that it has an easement on it, ST EB133974, and we know this jurisdiction is Etobicoke City of Toronto. Why are these three components important? Now we're going to get it sort of into the last piece, which is what do you do with this? Well, the first piece is important because before you go headlong into a deal, whether it's a listing or on the buying side, please pause and make sure that the property you're either about to list or to bid on, that the legal description that's been given to you is correct. What if you're actually looking at lot 26 on plan 3936 and somehow you've got it confused or the documentation has been given to you for lot 25 and lot 25 says there's an easement and you go through this believing there's an easement. Well, in actual fact, well, there wasn't an easement because you were looking at completely the wrong lot. So please use this lot 25, this first locational reference, whether you're on the listing side or the buying side, to ensure that you're looking at the right property. And you're going to go from left to right in the legal description. And that locational component can get quite extensive, or it can be as short as this one. But what you're looking for is the point at which that ends, and you get into something, you get into either an ST or a TW or an ROW or an RT, something that begins the process of describing easements. And in this case, we see an ST. We know now that we've switched out of the locational component, and now we're into the encumbrances on the property, most of which are easements. So in this case, we've got an easement, ST, and that means that this property is subject to an easement right that the benefit of which accrues to another property or an organization. We know nothing more than that, other than it's a subject to, meaning that this property is a servient tenement, and that the details of this easement are further described in in the instrument named EB133974. And then we know that this is Etobicoke, City of Toronto. Let's look at the next one. Oops, two more. Oh, my goodness, I'm going way too far here. There we go. Parcel 31-8, section M1498. Remember what we talked about earlier? Also known as Lot 38 on Plan M1498. Now, in this particular case, there are no easements, there are no encumbrances, so that section gets skipped. You'll notice there's no green section to this. That's okay. It just means there are no encumbrances. There is always the locational component, and there is always the jurisdictional component. But the middle bit, the encumbrances, are only there if you have easement or encumbrances on title. So in this case, there are none. It's telling us here's the locational component, and it's in Markham. Next one. Parcel 22-1, section 65M2770, also known as Lot 22, Plan 65M2770. There's your locational component. Again, it's an either or temperature, right? Centigrade, Fahrenheit, meters, inches, feet, and inches. Then it's subject to an easement, further described in instrument LT886455 in Markham. Last one, Lot 22, Plan 65M3607. Easy locational component. We know that's ended because we've hit an ST subject to a right for 7 years, and you know the rest of that one. So that's a more detailed encumbrance component right there, right? And here's a slightly more involved one. Let me get rid of me here so you can see the whole one. There we go. So in this case, you can see that the locational component is parcel 48-3, section 65M2056, and part of lot 48, plan 65M 2065, and part 21 and 22 is 65R5908. It's made up of several different parts, this one. And then that stops and you go into the encumbrance section, ST part 22, and so on. I'm not going to torture you by reading all that out, but that's a pretty substantial encumbrance section. This is the point at which you say, stop, I'm going to go buy an either seller's report or a buyer's report from Protect Your Boundaries, and they'll explain all that for me. Much easier than trying to figure it out yourself. Please don't skate over something like this, because these easements may have a significant impact on your buyer's ability to use the land. So there you go. So you can see how when you start breaking these down, that even the complicated ones, they start making sense, and you can start digging in to understand, is this property the right one? Am I looking at the right property? What are the easements and encumbrances on title that I need to be aware of? So next slide. Now you notice how in that middle section, the green section, we didn't just call it easements. We actually called it encumbrances. And the reason why we did that is because it's not an encumbrance in that middle section isn't just easements. It can be other elements, other things on title, other encumbrances on title. For example, if somebody hasn't, as an example, if somebody hasn't paid their HST, or somebody hasn't paid their child support, and this has gone in front of it, and this has gone quite far in the legal process, it's on the desk of a judge, and what can happen often is that they will say, okay, this property that you own cannot be sold until or without this encumbrance being taken care of, and we're going to put that on title. So it actually encumbers the property. It's something that has to be paid out, like a lien or a mortgage or something like that. It has to be taken care of. And so in this particular one, we're looking at a court action here on part of Lot 3, Concession 3, Trafalgar, south of Dundas Street, as in 25668, 26698, except the easement therein. And then it says, subject to execution 92-503226, if enforceable, and subject to the execution of 9501786, if enforceable. If you see those terms, if you see the word subject to execution, what that means is that there's some sort of charge or court order against this property on title. And if you want to find out what it's about, that 92055011786, those again are instruments that you can dig into. There are instruments that you can get. And again, if you get a seller's report or a buyer's report, we'll provide those and decipher those for you. But here's what's important. The second you see this, if you're on the listing side, you have to ask your seller, what are these? Have they been resolved? Because they might have been resolved and just still be sitting in the legal description. If they've been resolved, you need to make sure that you provide the evidence of the resolution with your listing so it doesn't become a roadblock for potential buyers. It's okay if it's in the legal description, as long as you can say, no, this got taken care of 20 years ago. It's just still in the legal description. Oh, okay, thanks, we can move on. It isn't encumbering the property anymore. And for the same reasons, you've got to do that on the buying side. You see this before you even go and see a property with a buyer. You've got to take a look at this and go, whoa, what is this? We've got to take a look at this. Has it been resolved? And demand evidence of resolution from the listing agent. Otherwise, you're looking at a situation where potentially, when you do the math, the amount that is owing on the mortgage plus the amount that is still owing on an unresolved court order judgment like this may exceed the value of the property, the sale value of the property. So if you're on the listing side, you may be underwater on this before you've even taken the listing, before you've even posted it. So important. And you know as well as I do that you've still got to pay the buying agent's commission. That's on you. You've got to pay it, even if you're underwater on the deal. So please watch these, be careful of these. Again, if you're a Boundary-Wise graduate, if you're a CBW agent, you've got us as hotline support. You can just call us and we'll help you through this kind of stuff, okay? So that's an interesting one, and one that you really need to watch out for. That's in your best interest as well as your clients. So what are the major documents that you need to be able to decipher the legal description, specifically the easement components? Well, the parcel register is one. You know how strongly we believe in acquiring a parcel register every single time you're listing and every single time you're seriously looking at making a bid for a client on a property. Your easement instruments after that, the instruments, the legal documents that describe these encumbrances. And finally, the survey plan, because if it's an easement, the survey plan will show you the footprint on the ground. This is a parcel register, as you can see, and right there you've got the parcel identification number, and right there it says ST&TW CA294772. You know that this is because it's ST&TW, remember what that means? Mutual driveway. And if it's a mutual driveway, you then need a further description of it. It's described in CA294772, and when we pull that for you, here it is, and there's a long description that I'm not going to torture you with, but it describes it. You don't want to have to describe this yourself. Let us do it through a buyer's report or a seller's report, or you describe it. That's okay. This is one that's quite readable and quite interesting. But then you get the survey plan that shows you the footprint of that easement on the ground, and you can determine if there's anything from a boundary perspective that might be a little squiffy. And in this particular case, squiffy is a technical term, by the way. And in this particular case, you can see at the rear of the property, there's a fence that's been built, a wire fence that's been built right into the easement. And so that is a point of questioning that on the listing side, before you list, you need to ask, who put that fence up? How long has it been there? Do you know that it's encroaching on the easement? That's not allowed. Should we be taking it out? What is your relationship with your neighbor regarding this fence? Is this a point of contention? Let's get all this known before we list so we're not caught out with a great potential client who walks away because this scares them. On the buying side, you look at something like this and you go, whoa, there's a fence that cuts right into the easement there. I know from my Boundary-Wise education that easements cannot be blocked or obstructed at any time. Who built it? Who owns it? What's the relationship? Do they know it's an error? What do we do if it comes down? And all those wonderful things. Ask, ask, ask. But it starts with understanding that legal description and using that legal description almost like the canary in the coal mine to say, hey, there's something here. I see a red flag. Let me look into it. So, finally, how to protect yourself and your client. We've talked about this. On the listing side, on the selling side, examine the legal description to see if there are any obvious tripwires there for you that are going to catch you out. Look at the legal description, look for easements, examine them on the survey plan on the ground. Is the land being used the way it should be being used? And decide on what to disclose or have cleaned up. On the buying side, investigating easements in the legal description as above. Make sure in both cases that the property is the right property. And if you have to, throw in a condition there that's on satisfactory boundary inspection. Throw something like that if you feel you have time, or if you think it's not going to lose you the deal, something like that. But protect your client if you think that's necessary. We had one just like that just the other day. And always discuss with the surveyor if you suspect issues. Guys, never forget that only surveyors have the legal right to provide you with an opinion on boundaries. Your job is triage. You're looking to see if you suspect any issues. It's not your job to be a professional. Make sure you're very careful with your language when you speak with your clients about the level of certainty with which you describe potential issues. Make sure that your language is intentionally uncertain. Use phrases like, I suspect, right? Or there may be, or I think I might know of something that may be wrong. And then ask the client if you want to engage with the right professionals, not engineers, not planners, not architects, not your next door neighbor who seems to know what to do with a tape measure really, really effectively. It's a surveyor. A surveyor has the legal right to contact us or one of the great surveyors in Ontario, and we'll help you out with that kind of thing. Okay, finally, as we tie this up, please, guys, we're getting so many of you online. It's fantastic. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Get more and more of you on the graduated. As you know, or for those of you who are joining for the first time, this is online education for Ontario realtors. This is a step and a cut way above what is taught by ARIA and RICO and the new Humber courses. This is way above that in terms of its relevance, in terms of its specificity, and in terms of its depth. It's 7 to 10 hours. The total thing is 7 to 10 hours of video training and course notes. You get to watch me for 10 hours, which may be a complete and utter turn off for you, but there you go. You have to suffer through that, but it's only 10 hours. You get to take it at your own pace. You get to stop whenever you want, stop and start. You get quizzes and exams all the way through. Guys, it's tough. You've got to get 80% to pass the exams. You've got to concentrate. This isn't the kind of real estate course where you can watch Netflix while you're pressing the space bar over here to get through it. You have to focus. This is proper education that you take to get a professional designation after it. We're going to give you knowledge. We're going to give you tools and resources. We're going to give you process. Ask anyone who's gone through it and who's taken it and is using it how effective it is for them. But here's what's important. You're going to get more leads. We're going to drive more leads to you. You're going to get more listings. You're going to be able to win more listings because it's going to make you more competitive when you're competing against other agents. You're going to be able to say, yes, but what I have that they don't is this body of knowledge and the support of Protect Your Boundaries behind me. You're going to be able to protect those commissions. We know that our commissions, your commissions are under pressure, right? People are questioning your value in the deal, and they're always asking you for a deal. This is another one of those things that you can show, that you can demonstrate to your prospect and your client why you're worth every penny of the commission you charge. Because not only are you arranging phenomenal staging and phenomenal photography and drone footage and all the rest of it, and you're figuring out the exact right price to sell it for, the selling strategy, but you're also making sure you're protecting the underside of this deal, the land portion of this deal, which is ultimately what you're transacting. So please come and join us at boundarywise.ca. Find out what the Boundarywise Academy is all about. Come to protect your boundaries if you need a survey plan. Engage with us. You'll get so much more of this kind of thing. And hopefully we will see you all very, very soon online. Guys, have a great week. Stay positive, stay productive. Have an awesome week. We'll see you all soon.